Their front leg is 20 feet tall. You know, the biggest dinosaur ever found was found in Oklahoma. It was 60 feet tall. They say it'll take them 20 years to dig it out of the ground because it is a government project. They say the biggest one, when it was alive, probably weighed about 100 tons. That's equal to 14 school buses put together. That means if he was to come by and step on you, you would be deeply impressed by him. I don't know if it'd be impressed or depressed. Maybe I can get an English teacher to help me out with that one. Or both, okay? You'd be road pizza when he got done, right? Speaking of government projects, I need to share with you my new invention. I've invented something that's going to make me the richest man in the world. I'm going to save so much money for the highway department, especially the crew that did Highway 29 a couple years ago, the military, and utility companies. And all I want is 10% of the savings. I'll be the richest man in the world. I have invented a shovel that will stand up by itself. You won't need to pay those guys to lean on it anymore. Yep, well, thank you, thank you. Job 40:19 says, He is the chief of the ways of God. The chief. That's the Hebrew word risheth. He's the chief. He's the principal. He's the beginning. He's the biggest animal God ever made. Well, that would not be the elephant hippopotamus. It'd be the brachiosaurus. See, the translators in the King James translation did not know a lot about dinosaurs. When they came to this word, they knew about elephants and hippopotamus. They just said, this is behemoth, giant animal. They didn't know what it was. Today we know about dinosaurs, but they lived at a time when most of them were extinct and the bones hadn't been found yet. So kind of a limbo time there where they said, look, it's just a big animal. We don't know what it is. But he's the chief of the ways of God. You know, it kind of fits the pattern for the way the devil works, though. When God makes beautiful things, the devil tries to destroy them or use them for his glory. God invented music. God loves music. And Satan has tried to twist it and use ungodly music to destroy our culture. Somebody asked me one time, they said, Brother Hovind, you know what you get if you play country music backwards? I said, no. They said, you get your wife, your hound dog, and your pickup, all back. Oh yeah, backmasking. I heard about that stuff, right? And God invented marriage and the family and sex. God made them male and female, and he understands it pretty good, and he put some rules down. Boys, don't touch the girls till you're married to them. Now, if you don't want to touch them, then stay away from me, please, okay? I saw your kind in San Francisco. But God put the rules down because he wants the best. He said the adulteress will hunt for the precious life. God doesn't want you hunting for the precious life. He wants you to have the precious life, not be hunting for it all your life. And God created the great animals, the great whales, the living creatures. God made the dinosaurs. And Satan said, you know, there has to be some way I can use dinosaurs against God. But the devil couldn't fool Adam. You kidding? Adam named him. Can you imagine the devil coming to Adam saying, hey, Adam, did you know dinosaurs lived millions of years ago? Adam would say, are you dumb or what? There's one in the backyard eating off my cherry tree right now. The devil couldn't fool Noah, not with dinosaurs. Noah fed him every morning. But for the next 4,000 years, most of them were killed off or died off. And by the early 1800s, when they found the bones and started putting them together in museums, the devil said, here's my chance. Everybody has forgotten about dinosaurs. You know, out of sight, out of mind. And the devil said, I think I'm going to tell these people that dinosaurs lived millions of years ago. And if they believe it, it'll make them doubt the Bible. And boy, has it worked well for the last 200 years. You know, boys and girls go to kindergarten, and they get a book that says, boys and girls, we can read about dinosaurs. Would anyone like to take just a wild guess at what the first sentence in the book says? Millions of years ago. How did you know? You're 8 years old. And you knew it too, okay? And you're only 5 years old, right? Why do all the dinosaur books start off, you know, millions of years ago? You think there's any books like this in the library in your public school? How about the public library? You think the kids are going to face this type of teaching on TV? Discovery Channel? Animal Kingdom? Animal World? Millions of years ago. How many kids are being taught that in your town at your expense? I go to museums all the time, and I just get sick and tired of all the kids going through these museums, seeing these little signs, 70 million years ago, dinosaurs roamed the earth. It's about time somebody gets interested in reaching these kids with the truth. And some of you ought to quit worrying about knocking that stupid ball into the hole in the dirt and start worrying about what the kids are being taught. And get yourself some tracts or some videotapes or something and go out and stand at these museums and give these kids the truth about dinosaurs. Because there are thousands and thousands of kids in Pensacola who believe dinosaurs lived millions of years ago. And they don't realize it yet. But that's going to cause them to really question any belief in the Bible for all of their life. Satan starts kids when they're 3 years old with dinosaurs. I spoke at a public school one time to 300 first graders. Try that sometime. I had all these kids in the room and I said, boys and girls, when did dinosaurs live? Instantly, all of them shouted out, millions of years ago. These kids can barely read. How do they know this already? And why aren't the Christians getting their message across? Next verse here and we'll quit. The Bible says, he lieth under the shady trees in the covert of the reed and fens. The word fens is the Old English word that means the swamp. Behemoth lives in the swamp. Did you know the largest swamp in the world is in the middle of Africa? It is 55,000 square miles. There's what it looks like next to the United States. Africa's huge. You kids are going to be taught that all the continents used to fit together, Pangea. That is baloney. They shrank Africa 35 or 40% to make them fit. They do not fit together. We covered that on video number 6. But this swamp in Africa is 80% unexplored today. Did you know there have been about 30 expeditions into that swamp in the last 20 years? They all come back saying there are dinosaurs still alive. Small ones, probably the Apatosaurus or Cetosaurus, like this one. If you show this to the natives that live in the swamp, they'll say, yep, that's Mokele Mbembe. He still lives in the swamp. They're not as big as they used to be, and certainly not very plentiful. We cover more on that in the next session about dinosaurs that are still alive. There have been an amazing number of sightings of dinosaurs still alive in this century. Actually, over 20,000 reported sightings of dinosaurs. I receive calls and letters just about every week from somebody somewhere in the world that says, Brother Hovind, I saw your tape, and I've never told anybody this because they think I was crazy, but I saw one of those. People are just afraid to say what they've seen because of the teachings that dinosaurs lived millions of years ago. Dead one washed up on the beach in California in 1925. The neck was 20 feet long. One atheist wrote me a letter and said, Hovind, you're so stupid. Don't you know that was a whale? Just exactly where is the neck on a whale? Please show that to me. We'll cover lots more on dinosaurs still living in the next session. Thank you so much. All right, welcome to the second half of our video number 3 on dinosaurs in the Bible. In this section, we're going to talk about dinosaurs that are still living. The Bible teaches there was a canopy of water when God first made the earth. We cover that on video number 2. And dinosaurs lived with man in the original creation. They were just big lizards, giant reptiles. They always lived with man. They did not live millions of years ago. And there's ample evidence throughout history that dinosaurs have lived with man, from Ica stones and cave drawings and all sorts of legends of dragons. But what about dinosaurs still alive? Could it be that there are a few of them still around? Most of the textbooks say dinosaurs lived millions of years ago. Now just hold on a minute. They don't know that. In Job chapter 40, it describes an animal called Behemoth, and it says he lives under the shady trees in the covert of the reed and fens, the swamp. Well, the biggest swamp in the world is in the middle of Africa, 55,000 square miles, bigger than the entire state of Arkansas, where our past president and her husband Bill came from. This was a big swamp, 55,000 square miles. And there have been many reports of people citing dinosaurs still living in that swamp. The Congo swamp was taken over by Belgium in 1885, up until 1960 when the communists liberated them. You know, the communists will liberate countries. They killed everybody and said, okay, you're free now. But from early 1700s, actually, when the missionaries went into that swamp, they reported strange animals. like dinosaurs. This article appeared in the New York Herald in 1910. After some explorers came back from Africa, they said there could be dinosaurs still alive in the swamp in Africa. This article appeared in the Saturday Evening Post, 1948. There could be dinosaurs still living. In 1980, Roy Mackal went there and reported dinosaurs still living. A South African big game hunter returned from a trip to Angola and announced to the Cape Town newspaper that there was an animal of large dimensions, the description of which could only fit a dinosaur. The natives called it the Chippewa. Over in Central African Republic, they have a different name for it, Nguri, depending on their language, of course. Roy Mackal went there in 1980. He's University of Chicago microbiology professor. He's now retired, lives in California. He went back in 81 and spent $250,000